Welcome back, TalkBack Live, brought to you by Family Pharmacy, located in 2 locations, one in downtown Aiken on Newberry Street, the other on the south side on Price Avenue across from the walking track at Odell Weeks. Come by and see Brandy over there on the south side, or come by and see good old Jay here in the downtown area, and they'll take care of you for all your pharmaceutical needs, much less all the vitamins and minerals and supplements that they also have in store, and all kinds of great things like goat soap. They have goat soap, believe it or not. You can go buy. And it's flu season coming right around the corner. It's time to get your flu shot. We're going to have to get Brandy on here to explain flu shots to us so that we know why we have to take flu shots, because I don't like getting shots, but sometimes it's necessary. And I've had enough shots in my time that I suppose one more won't hurt. But at any rate, we'll get her in and have her talk to that. They are the sponsors of our health and fitness section, so we appreciate that. And that gets Dr. Parr some extra money in his pocket. You're paid so well to do this.
Yes. I am.
That is not true. I don't want the family pharmacy people to think, really? No. You're here to just help promote.
Absolutely,
health and fitness.
That's right.
Because that's what you're about at USC.
That's what I do. Yeah.
And besides teaching those kids all this various stuff, he writes a column in the paper, which was yesterday. Yeah. And yesterday's was about child obesity.
Childhood obesity, yeah.
And so it's interesting to read that and then get on the internet and read it. This is actually Child Obesity Awareness Month.
It is. September's Childhood Obesity Awareness Month. That's right.
I don't know whether you said that in your column or not.
Oh, probably 3 or 4 times. Yeah. I probably worked that in 3 or 4 times.
Well, it took me going on the internet with the site that you sent me to before I realized, that's what COAN stands for.
Yeah.
So what is the deal? Why are children getting the percentages? And it's like not every child is obese. We're not saying that. But a high percentage, and it keeps getting bigger.
Yeah. So right now, about 17 or 18% of kids are considered obese. And that's kind of the extreme of too heavy for their height. Really excess fat on beyond what would be normal for most kids. So like in adults, we say that a third of adults are considered obese. So that number's a lot lower in kids. But you shouldn't feel good about that, and I'll explain why in just a moment. In adults, we say that 2/3 of adults are above a healthy body weight. In kids, that's about 1/3. It starts as young as infancy, and there are now statistics to suggest that approaching 10% of children younger than 2 are considered obese. So it starts young. No one really knows exactly what the cause is because it varies from person to person. But it seems the 2 common themes seem to be not enough physical activity and too many calories, in particular added sugars. If you look at a lot of the foods that kids eat, and especially a lot of the foods marketed to kids, from cereals to snacks, added sugar is a common theme in almost all of those. And so, my perspective is you can take the activity level that's too low and the excess calories, and you put those together, and that, in most cases, would explain why that's happening.
And I've got to agree with the idea of the lack of exercise.
Sure.
Of kids don't go outside like I did.
I know.
I mean, I don't know about you.
Oh, no. Outside. After school, you're outside until dinner, and after dinner, you do your homework, and then you might go outside again, and you stay out until it's dark, and then go to bed.
And you run around, and you don't necessarily run with the idea of I'm doing this for exercise.
No, but it's just play.
You're always playing around doing something crazy.
And think about when you were a kid in school. You probably had several opportunities to run around outside and play for recess. And now that is less and less common. It used to be common to have physical education more frequently than it's in schools now. So the opportunities for kids to be active at school are much diminished. At home, kids tend to be sedentary, more sedentary now than they were back when we were kids. So you take these kind of where kids spend most of their time, and their activity levels are lower than they used to be, say, a generation ago.
Well, they seem to be obsessed with video games.
Sure.
And sitting inside and playing with that.
I agree, and I think that that's a part of the problem, but I don't think it's the only problem.
No, of course not.
I think there's a culture of inactivity, and I think that and now the terminology has changed. It used to be television viewing. Kids watch too much TV, and now we call it screen time. And kids spend too much time in front of screens, playing video games and watching movies and so forth.
Computers and whatnot.
And you can look up some statistics that will suggest that, you know, by the time a kid graduates from high school, they've spent as much time in front of a screen as they have in school. You know, for many kids, it's a full-time job, 40 hours a week in front of a TV or a computer, and that doesn't include computer to do homework. This is, you know, leisure, games, and so forth. The problem with that is that most of the time that involves sitting. It's not the screen that's the problem, it's the not moving that's the problem.
Well, and we tried to come up with video games that got you moving.
Oh, yeah.
You know, bowling, and archery.
Sure. That's
and,
right. That's right.
Yeah, yoga.
Yeah.
I didn't particularly care for the yoga, but the actual activity of jumping around, even standing there and singing, and singing the songs with the Beatles or whatever have you. It was... that at least you're moving and standing up and getting around, as opposed to you know, sitting on your with your little thing here, which I don't see. I've done it before and played the video games, and you can get addicted to them. I can remember playing baseball years ago on it and just thinking that was just fun, and then finally at some point playing the Mario, and Mario was going to save the princess, and I finally got the princess, and I did it one more time and got the princess again, and went, that's enough of that. But I was considerably older at that point. I was like, I'm wasting time. And, you know, an adult who's used to being outside, I think at some point goes, I got to get out of here. I'm going stir crazy.
Yeah. Well, and I think this culture of inactivity is brought on in part by parents, because adults now are less active than they were a generation ago in their leisure time. So there's an environment in which everyone in the family isn't getting as much activity as they should. And so the kids kind of adopt the behaviors of the parents. And the thing that's tough about childhood obesity is as a parent, you have to look at yourself and say, okay, how much of this am I doing? And that's a tough thing to do. That's a tough thing to do.
Yeah. And how can you help them do that?
Yeah.
Well, let's take a break. Last week we talked about BMI, body mass index.
Body mass index.
And I've got some questions about this obesity and the BMI and all that type of thing. We'll talk about that when we return on TalkBack Live.